Whether it be a decades-old crime or one committed only weeks ago, we would like to believe that everyone gets justice in the end. Sometimes a lot of hard work goes into getting that, and other times simple clues lead to the criminals. Number 5. Neighborhoods all around the world have local community Facebook pages where residents discuss news that impacts them, warn one another about traffic incidents, and appeal for information about crimes. While not every group is harmonious, earlier this year, one group in Louisiana helped stop 2 boat thieves in their tracks. A couple in Bossier City returned home after a day out to find the fishing boat they had stored in their driveway was missing. Luckily, the couple had invested in surveillance cameras around their home, which clearly showed exactly what happened while they were away. A light-colored pickup truck had parked in their driveway about 10 minutes before they arrived home. A young man climbed out, hitched the boat to the back of his truck, and pulled away as if he was going on a completely normal trip. When they saw the footage, the couple immediately called police. They also put the video on their local Crime Stopper Facebook page in the hopes that someone might be able to identify the man in the video. As police investigated the theft, they received another call from someone at a nearby hotel. A second boat had now been stolen. Again, footage showed the same person was involved. The Facebook page worked well in actually providing police with information. Not only was the group able to identify the man as Cameron Jessup's, they also gave police a better description of the vehicle that he had been driving and even the location where one of the boats was being stored. Multiple arrests were issued for Jessup's. He managed to evade capture for a short while, but he didn't take too many precautions to make sure he wasn't recognized. Police now had a detailed description of the vehicle he was driving. So when a patrol officer noticed the exact same truck towing a camper van a few days later, he pulled the driver over. Jessup's was traveling with his ex-girlfriend, Sabrina Gibson. He was arrested for the theft of the boats, but at the time there was no evidence linking Gibson to the crime. She was, however, also arrested because the camper van they were towing was also stolen. Number 4. A piece of evidence police had for over 40 years may have finally helped to solve a murder case from 1979. For some reason, a fingerprint from a crime scene was overlooked at the time, and it was only through the work of one detective going through cold cases that the killer was ever caught. Keith Judd was found in the office of the bar he owned on July 20th, 1979, by employees coming into work. He was badly injured and appeared to have been attacked by a blunt weapon. A small amount of money was missing from the cash register, and it seemed like money had been taken from Keith's person as well. Keith did not survive and wasn't able to give any information about who had done this to him. Crime scene investigators collected fingerprints from the scene. Given this was an area off limits to patrons, only Keith, his employees, and the person who took his life would have been in the room. Most of the fingerprints could be accounted for, but 22 found in an ice-making machine could not be matched to Keith or any of his employees. The fingerprints didn't immediately lead to any suspects, and they were soon forgotten about. But when a detective reopened the case in 2019, he found the prints and reran them through the police databases. Thomas Hinnard was a match. Hinnard had been in his late 20s at the time of the murder and had been living in the area. When police tracked him down in 2019, he denied having ever been to Sunnyvale, where Keith's bar had been. This was false, and when he realized police weren't buying the lie, he confessed to having lived there, but only to have been to the bar a few times. This also turned out to not be true, as he knew too many details about the bar to have only been there a few times more than 40 years ago. When asked about Keith, he remarked that this was a man who had been beaten with an axe handle, but this information had never been released to the public. Hinnard tried to backtrack and claimed someone at the scene told him, but when he swung by to ask what was going on the day after the crime, police hadn't determined the murder weapon until a while later. After multiple interviews, Hinnard was charged earlier this year. He allegedly told police he would take the truth to his grave, and he has yet to confess to the crime. Number 3. Carol McNamara had just come home from a funeral when she found her home in Central Texas ransacked. Her husband had lost a fight against COVID shortly after Christmas of 2020. While she had been saying goodbye to him, a gang of thieves broke into her home and stole jewelry, guns, and even her car. Her car was found abandoned later that same day, but the rest of her possessions remained missing. Many had sentimental values that could not be replaced. But between December 2020 and February of 2021, the same gang commit 27 other burglaries across multiple counties in Central Texas. The thieves took everything from cars and jewelry to antiques and works of art. In one case, they stole a car key fob, and when the owner traded in her car to try to stop them from coming back for her vehicle, they returned to steal the new key. Many of the victims also had stolen tools, adding insult to injury as the victims were robbed of their only source of income in already difficult times. In total, the group stole more than $235,000 of property and money during a crime spree that crossed the jurisdiction of 5 different police forces. The thieves planned their crimes carefully. Not only did they spread out their hits to make it harder for law enforcement to connect the crimes, but they also used a drone and local security cameras to make sure their victims weren't home when they broke in. At least 2 of the victims, including Carol, were attending funerals when the thieves hit, but that was of no concern to them. While they were intelligent in some aspects of their crimes, this changed a lot after the crime had been committed. The robbers used social media to brag about their crimes, laughing about how easy it was to rob people while they were attending funerals. It didn't take long for someone to pass on this information to law enforcement, but it still took a great deal of coordination between the different police forces to catch the entire gang. In the end, police were able to arrest 7 of the suspected thieves, including the ringleader, Justin Holt. About $100,000 worth of possessions were found in a storage unit that could be traced back to Holt. Police are still working on locating the rest of the stolen property. Number 2. On January 7th, 1982, Jeff Oberholzer and his friends found his wife's body the day after she had disappeared while out with friends. His wife Bobby was found in a snowdrift on Hoosier Pass. Only her footprints led to the body, but she'd been hit in the head with 2 bullets. She hadn't come here alone. At the scene, police found her house keys and an orange sock that didn't belong to her. Jeff became the prime suspect. He'd last spoken to her at about 6:30 p.m. the day before, when she told him she was at a bar with friends. He offered to drive her home when she was finished, but she said she would get a ride. When she hadn't returned the following morning, he tried to report her missing, then went to search for her. His only alibi was that another friend had dropped by at roughly the time the murder was suspected to have taken place, but the friend remembered calling around a different time. On the same day Bobby's body was found, Annette Schnee was reported missing. Annette was around Bobby's age and had gone missing the day before. She was last seen at 4 p.m. talking to an unidentified woman in the town center. Police believed she left the town center at 5 p.m. with plans to hitchhike home before she went to the bar where she worked as a waitress. She was scheduled to start at 8 p.m., but she never showed up. There was no evidence Bobby and Annette had ever known one another, but police believed the 2 cases were connected. At first, Jeff denied having ever met Annette. Then he admitted he may have picked her up at one point. Annette, like Bobby, would hitchhike to work. Jeff had given her a lift to work at one point and handed her his business card. This was the extent of their interaction. 6 months passed, and police had made little progress when they discovered Annette's body in a creek. It appeared as though she'd likely died the night she went missing. On her body, they found Jeff's business card. She was fully clothed, but only wearing 1 sock, and it matched the one that was found with Bobby. Now, police were certain the 2 crimes were connected, and Jeff went through lie detector tests to determine whether he was involved. He passed, but he wasn't necessarily in the clear. In 1990, blood found at the scene where Bobby was found was tested. Initial investigators had believed it belonged to Bobby, but the results showed it had come from a man, and the DNA also finally ruled Jeff out. The DNA went unmatched for more than 30 years before, in February of 2021, genetic genealogy traced it to a man named Alan Phillips. Phillips had been arrested for minor crimes in the early 80s, but had apparently led a normal life since then. Police believed he may have been involved in other crimes. He was arrested without incident, though hasn't confessed or given any public comment. Number 1. The person responsible for the death of 24-year-old Sylvia Quayle managed to get away with murder for 40 years. Now police finally believe they've caught the criminal. It was Sylvia's father who found her body on August 4th, 1981. Her life had been taken late the night before, or in the early hours of the morning. Police found the phone lines at her Colorado home had been cut and the bathroom window screen had been removed. An autopsy found that she had died due to blood loss from stab wounds, but also had been strangled and received multiple bullet wounds before her death. Progress on the case was slow, and multiple new developments in technology helped piece together information over the years. It was 2 years before police found the first crucial piece of evidence. Forensic technicians used an alternate light source to find what they described as potential foreign material on a rug near where Sylvia's body was found. The material they believed was DNA belonging to the killer. This meant they had something to compare against when a drifter named Otis Toole confessed to the crime the same year. Toole took the lives of multiple people, but police suspected he was claiming responsibility for more crimes than he had actually committed. Toole was able to describe the area around Sylvia's home, indicating he knew more about the crime than had been released to the public, but his DNA was found nowhere around the scene. The case against Toole was dismissed, and police again returned to work, making sure the real killer wouldn't get away with his crime. By 1995, police had determined the DNA came from an unknown male. It was plugged into multiple police databases but came back with no matches. Finally, in 2019, police began working with genetic genealogists. They were able to create the killer's family tree using DNA voluntarily provided by the public. Police used the tree to pinpoint a single suspect, David Dwayne Anderson. Anderson is now in his 60s, but at the time of Sylvia's death, he would have been 22 years old and he lived nearby. He'd been arrested multiple times over the years, including an arrest for burglary only months after Sylvia was found. No DNA was ever taken. Police needed Anderson's DNA to actually confirm he was the man they were looking for. In January of this year, detectives searched through his trash and managed to take a sample from a Coke can Anderson had thrown out. It confirmed that this was the man they were looking for, and Anderson was charged with murder. Anderson is yet to go to trial, and a pre-trial hearing is scheduled for next month. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.